So you could talk about major or catastrophic. So that would fall under the
Mhm.
illness, accidents,
Mhm.
right? Those types of things. So setting that kind of thing aside, some of the challenges, I would say, I'm very protective of our drivers. Um,
That's good.
they're all friends, and I treat them like that, and they treat me like that as well. So some of the things are not being treated well on the road. Um, that's a concern, and that has to be addressed. And some of the drivers were like, "Well, I'll deal with it. I don't want to make waves." We had one tour, it was a very short tour, 5 trucks on the tour, and they were treated horribly. And the lead driver didn't tell me until the end of the tour, and he said, "I didn't wanna make
Mm.
trouble. It was only 3 weeks." And
No.
every driver at the end of that called me individually and said, "I'll never work with them again." And I said, "Neither will I. That's fine. That's okay."
La 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 ladies, the ladies. La, la. Now here's the leading ladies by geezers of gear. On tour, maybe she got some stories to share. Now here's the leading ladies by the geezers of gear. Rock star ladies with some stories to share because la 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 ladies, the ladies, la la. So, Sharon, welcome to Leading Ladies podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and chat with me.
Thank you for having me. So excited.
Yeah, no, it's lovely. You're somebody else that's being recommended by Cara Kemp from Echo Live. So again, can't thank you enough, Cara. She said that you was absolutely incredible, and I had to get you on and talk to you. So the first thing I always ask is where are you now? Where's your home? I see you've got a great background going on there.
Yeah, so home is Nashville. I
Hmm.
live right outside of Nashville in Franklin. My company is based here as well. And I am currently in a home office. I do have an office that I don't go to, but I do have one. But most of the time, I'm just very comfortable working from here. So I'm in my home office.
I think sometimes it's nice to have an office, and I'm sure obviously you've got a headquarters, but to work in your own space, it just brings out the best in people. I know so many people are now very frustrated that they have to go into an office when obviously during COVID it was all home officed. And I think being at home, as long as you're doing your work, really brings out the best in you.
Yeah. And one of the
So,
things about Nashville that I learned, I moved here about 10 years ago. We are the people of Nashville, and I say we now because I've been here 10 years, so I feel like I'm a Nashvillian, um, very social. So even when you're working from a home office, we're very, very social. So coffee meetings are a really big thing here. Face to face is still a really big thing here. So maybe not necessarily going into a physical office, although a lot of us, do. Um, but especially in the touring industry, we're meeting for lunch, we're meeting for coffee, we're
see,
connecting
that's
somewhere, we're meeting for
great. Yeah.
donuts. Donuts are a big thing, tacos. So yeah, so it's still a great I love that about Nashville, that it's still very much a relational city.
That's great because here, I think most people know that are listening. I live in Crete, Greece. So,
Well, I am the president and founder of High Road based in Nashville. We are a tour trucking company. We do entertainment, live events, anything that's in that space, concerts, live music, uh, productions, anything like that. I started the company in 2016. I also have a facility up north, in the Northeast that acts as kind of a home base up there. That's where I'm originally from. And we do some local events up there and some warehousing and things like that. But my primary base is here in Nashville. And we focus on, it's interesting. We never really had a focus, a specific genre. People always assume we must be country music being in Nashville. And we've had very few country artists that we tour with. Yeah, we tour with one right now. We're on tour right now with Winona Judge, which is a fantastic tour. Um, but for some reason, we have slid into some very niche markets of death metal, K-pop, and indie bands.
That's
So yeah,
brilliant. So that's a real whole genre of all different, yeah, different types of music.
yeah.
And I mean, how many tours have you got out at the moment, if you don't mind me asking? So you've got one country going out at the moment.
Um, I think we have maybe 10 out right
That's
now.
incredible. That's
Yeah,
incredible. And do
yeah.
you go and visit these tours, especially if maybe they come locally to you? You go check on
I
everybody, not check on everyone,
yeah.
like just pop in and say hi.
Check in, not check on. Yeah, I do. It's really hard to visit tours in Nashville, to be honest. First of all, there's no market here for K-pop. There's no market here for death metal. So they never really come to Nashville.
Hmm.
And then the ones that do come to Nashville, we are such a music industry city that everyone's here. So when a tour comes to town, everyone wants to go visit, which makes it very difficult. I,
Yep.
it almost feels like I'm imposing on the crew, on the
Mhm.
production manager, the tour manager when they're here. So a lot of times I will reach out to them and just say, "Hey, want to pop in, say hello? What city is best for me to do that?"
Okay.
And
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
very rarely say Nashville.
Really? Okay.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. It's so I fly anywhere to check in, and usually I'll go in, I'll meet with my drivers, we'll go to lunch or
Hmm.
coffee or dinner or something like that, visit with the crew, production manager, make sure everything's going well. Is there anything they need? That kind of thing. And then, I'll just spend a day there and visit with them.
So if you don't mind me asking, so before you started High Road in 2016, what drew
Yes.
you to this point? So what was you doing before and drew you to actually starting High Road?
Yeah, so I think it's an interesting story, but I'll try to tell you the short version. So I had been in trucking for years, almost 20 years at that point. And I had been with a company where we did conferences and we did trade shows, and that was our niche market. So and it was the same thing. I would fly out to the trade shows, I'd go out to the conferences, I would meet with the team, I would be there on site during what I guess in the live music industry we call it load in, load out, but it's very similar in the trade show world. Um, it's fairly successful, loved what I did, loved the people I worked with. My daughter, who at the time was a teenager, was a big fan of the Jonas Brothers. Very big fan. So we did a ton of their concerts, and she wasn't old enough to go alone, so I would go with her. And we were at a Jonas Brothers. No, sorry, it was like a Nick Jonas and the whatever administration tour. We were at one of their shows. And as we're walking down the hallway, there were road cases lined the hallway. And I looked at them and I thought, wow, these look like trade show cases. And there were some stickers on there from some other companies that I was familiar with in the trucking industry. And I started to think, I think this is something I could figure out. How hard could it be? It was really hard. But so it took me several years to really hone in on that. And I was in Boston at the time. Um, I didn't know anything. So I was calling concert promoters. I was just calling anybody who would answer the phone and just try to get a meeting with them, spend time with them, ask them questions. And it was a concert promoter who was fantastic up there who kind of took me under his wing and said, "Why don't you come volunteer and work a couple shows with me and just get a feel for what's happening?" So I did. I took tickets and I held a spotlight and, just kind of hung around backstage, learning a little bit and watching things, and had some great introductions. Had a great tour manager who spent time with me and sat down and just told me everything that he would be looking for
I
in a
was going to say
partner in
everything he'd be
trucking.
looking to for those load in, load out moments, what he
Yeah.
expects from a trucking company,
Yes.
um, and the level that he would really expect you to be at.
Right. Right. So yeah, so that was kind of the impetus for it.
Hmm.
Fast forward, that was my daughter at 14, and I can base everything based on my children's ages. So it was 14 when we went to the show. She started volunteering with me at shows. She fell in love with the industry as well and wound up at Belmont majoring in music business. And I started my company in Nashville the same year she started college.
Okay, so from that transition period, you said that you was already working for in a trucking logistics company beforehand anyway.
Mhm.
Was there any was there any thought to make, let's say, your life easier and approach your idea to them because obviously they had everything already? Or did you have that much determination that you was like, no, I've done this with this company. They do all the trade shows, they do this. This is where I belong and this is where I'm going to start it.
Yeah. It's a longer story, but yes, I did approach it with them and we started to look at it with that company. The company that I was with based in Boston was a franchise.
Mhm.
And around the same time, that franchise lost its relationship with its corporate company. And so it was almost a forced situation where I
Yep.
had to decide what was I going to do because that relationship had ended. So essentially, that Boston facility was no longer in existence. So it was one of those things that I had to decide what to do. And this is what I decided to do.
And so moving to Nashville,
Hmm.
did you, I'm going to say, lease or buying your first truck? Was it, what, like how did from going from, okay, I'm moving, this is it, I'm going to start it on my own. It's going to
Hmm.
be all or nothing. So right, did you have any help behind you? I know you mentioned like a tour manager, but did you have like an assistant working with you at the time? Have you got like a business partner that, you both put your heads together and was like, okay, we're going to start with one truck. We're going to start with 10. We're going to start with 100. I don't know, like where you
No, it's not
like,
100.
no, you know
So
what I
there,
mean?
yeah, there were some people that were supportive. And what happened was when that office closed down, um, I pilfered some of the staff from there.
Hmm.
And I bought some of the equipment. I took some of the equipment that was there and purchased it. Wasn't the best decision I ever made because didn't realize that really wasn't tour
For touring.
worthy trucking equipment, but I didn't know what
Hmm.
I didn't know. So I did that. Um, Took over, I leased a facility in Nashville with warehousing and office space and hired some people in and started doing I just kind of jumped into it, honestly. And where that other office had closed down, I had picked up some of that work. So I continued to maintain some clients in the trade show space and in the conference space. And that was part of what really kept me going. Um, the first couple of years were a little rough. And then I think it was 2018 that my oldest son joined the company. And he came on and took over the operations in the Boston facility and then really helped to support what I was doing in Nashville. So it freed, because at the time there was a lot of back and forth. So it freed me up to really just hone in and focus on what I was doing in Nashville and not deal as much with what was happening in New England.
What was your inspiration to do it?
Being, I think the word control freak has a bad connotation.
It's not. I can be
Yeah.
that.
So, but I think it had a lot to do with that. The company that I was in, I was very high level. I had a lot of control over a lot of things, but I didn't have autonomy.
Hmm.
And this was an opportunity to really do things the way that I wanted to do them in the way that I felt was right. And even in coming up with the name of the company, High Road, I was shocked that nobody else in trucking had the name, to be honest. Did a lot of research on it. But it really was one of those things that I felt like it was a great representation of what we do and who we are in terms of high road gives you that, visual of trucking, right? The road. But then at the same time, we take the high road. And that's been one of our taglines for a long time has been take the high road. And that we try to really do things that honors our relationships with our clients and our relationships with our vendors, our relationships with our employees, our drivers, kind of everybody on the team. And we really see everyone as part of the same team.
And that's probably that is the best way. When you see everybody as one team, you've got respect for everybody, whether it's your client, whether it's somebody that's working for you. It could be the cleaner on the buses, everybody, we are all the same. Everyone knows that I say that all the time when I'm speaking to people. We are all the same, and to make it really work as an excellent team, you have to be that. You have to be that person. I can just see, I mean, already just the way you are, I can see that, well, it's been a very hard, not hard, no, yes, it's been a hard transition to 2016. Having your son come on board helped you. And then, of course, COVID hit. So just as you're starting, like
Yeah.
you've had these obstacles in your way. And obviously during COVID, was you able to do anything, or was it more based at home to build and hope that the industry would come back together?
I learned to play a lot of Candy Crush. I became really good at it during COVID.
I wasn't expecting that answer.
It was really challenging, I'll be honest. It was really challenging. We had really fallen into this sort of interesting space in the industry, and a friend of mine had really encouraged me in that direction. Um, I had a friend who was a drummer for, and we're still good friends. He's a drummer for a contemporary Christian band here in Tennessee. And he had said, you know what? Box trucks are really rare in touring, and a lot of us need them. And my first tours were box trucks. And we developed a real reputation in that space before COVID. Our first tour was a box truck with Andra Day. Um, and that's it just sort of become part of what we were doing. So we were doing semis, but we were also doing box trucks. And when all of the touring stopped in 2020, we started letting go of things. We let go of trucks, we let go of drivers. Um, the only thing that really sustained us during that time was we had a lot of retail. We picked up retail business um, because everybody was shopping.
All online, wasn't it? It went crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody was shopping. So we picked up some retail business that really sustained us during that time, and then PPP got us through. But I think I hit some pretty low lows during COVID, where you know, my life hasn't always been easy, and it had been a struggle getting the company up and running, aside from, some other personal things that were going on. And I remember sitting one day in the office and just staring at the wall and thinking, I don't even know if I can keep living where I'm living. I don't know if I can keep doing this. And, as a single parent and had kids at home, and I was just thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So there were some pretty rough patches during COVID. And if not for PPP, honestly, we would not have existed. We wouldn't have gotten through it. I had a fantastic banker who we had a great relationship with and was very, very supportive. Still love him. We have a great relationship. Um, but then coming out of it, a lot of things changed. Box trucks went away because when the touring season picked back up, we didn't have any equipment. So when we tried to get it, it was so expensive because the pricing of trucks went through the roof during COVID. Yeah. So it really changed the direction of the company. We stopped doing box trucks completely,
Okay.
and
Even now, or do you know?
it started back up again.
Okay.
It's crazy. It's come back. It's come back hot. So yeah. So we went to semis, and everybody was touring and everybody wanted to tour. And we had calls where people were bidding. What is it going to take to get a truck? We can't get a truck. What's it going to take? And so it was nuts. It was nuts.
So I was
Yeah.
going to, because obviously, if I speak to, many people on here, it did all of a sudden go boom, didn't it? Like it was a little bit of a slow start, but even now, I mean, the tours that are going out, and it seems that they're not really even, it's not necessarily even stopping so much anymore. It's kind of like, even there's a nice steady flow. There always used to be like the off season, but there isn't really, it's still just overflowing into the Christmas period. I know you've said on my little guest form that you're busy right up until Christmas, which is amazing, you know. And then I already know that different tours are going out, starting of January, going into February already. And you always had that bigger period. So have you noticed that things are really getting busier now?
Yeah, they are, and it's different.
Mhm.
We have historically been dead from right after Thanksgiving through early March-ish, sometimes a little bit later. Last year we toured straight through. Our last tour ended 2 days after Christmas, and that was it was a Christmas tour. Um, and our first tour started the second week of January.
Crazy.
Yeah, it is
I mean,
crazy.
it's good. I mean, it's not that it's
No, very
crazy,
grateful.
but
Very, very
it's like,
grateful for it. Yeah, very, very grateful because it was always a challenge getting through those slow periods. Um, so it started earlier, it's ending later. We're seeing the same thing now. There's a lot of theatrical tours that are continuing on over the holidays that will just go straight through into 2026. So it does feel a little steadier. Um, not as
I've never actually asked this question. I've never really thought about it, but why did we always have that those down months? Why did we have the down months, and why now has it changed?
So
Like,
I don't know, but what some of my theories, which I'm probably completely wrong, I often am, is holidays. It's very expensive to have holidays, and then nobody's buying tickets necessarily because that's your family events, your company
mhm.
events, you're doing all of that. You're not going out and doing shows. A lot of places it's just cold. It's just cold. I don't want to go to shows when it's cold. But yeah, it's just cold.
Yeah,
Um,
I thought about that. I thought maybe the what's the word? I can't say. The unreliability of the roads being in good conditions.
so there's that too. So
Okay.
the weather's a definite issue. We have had times where we've been stuck in weather. Um, we've had a driver stuck, gosh, I feel like it was Wyoming for a week. He was not on tour, but he was stuck. He was on the road and they just shut the roads down. So that's a huge issue. So if you are going to see tours, like there's some um Winter Jam is a Christian tour that goes out in the winter, but they're doing like southern states. They're not really going through the
Hmm.
Midwest or where there might be weather issues. Although I will say January of this year, our first tour was through Canada. And it didn't make sense to me.
No.
I was baffled. I was like, how? So I talked to some people and I was like, are they actually selling tickets? Do people? They said, yes, because Canada's so cold. And then when it gets warm, people don't want to go to shows. They want to go out. They want to be outside. They want to enjoy the weather. So they're more likely to go to shows when it's cold out because they're kind of used to the cold anyway. So our first major tour this year went through Canada. And the
Wow.
driver was absolutely miserable. But
And
yeah,
the roads. I
so
mean, I've been to Canada in January, and in fact, it was just outside of Montreal at the time, and the roads were for me being English. I mean, I was like, how are you all driving in these roads? I would be shut down.
right. And in the
Like,
South, if we get a couple flurries, we're done. Our day is
yeah,
over. Lock it
yeah,
up, send the kids home. We're shutting down. And coming from Boston, I was used to snow. I hated it, but I was used to it. But
yeah.
there's a lot that could happen when there's weather like that. Road closures, right? That's one thing delaying the show, but
Mhm.
accidents, that's a pretty
And have you ever
significant concern
had,
as
I
well.
know thankfully the driver wasn't on tour, but have you ever been in that situation, or even before the when you very first started, doing the corporate and the trade shows, have you ever had, a bad experience where the driver was stuck and it was like it's out of our control, there's been an accident or whatever.
Yeah.
And what do you do in those situations?
Lightswitch is a collective of award-winning lighting, media, and visual designers committed to changing how people experience the world. For more than 30 years, we have been practicing pragmatic design. At Lightswitch, we believe it's our responsibility to keep our clients' creative, logistical, and financial objectives in balance. LightSwitch's range of expertise is extensive, from working one-on-one with clients and artists to multidisciplinary teams collaborating on all visual aspects of temporary and permanent projects. LightSwitch creates unforgettable moments and powerful experiences. We celebrate our team, clients, and all of our industry's diverse and talented people. As a part of our commitment to inclusion in all aspects of entertainment and experience design, LightSwitch is proud to sponsor Leading Ladies.
Yeah, horribly. One of my very first corporate events, I had a trade show, and it was not weather related, but we had a truck roll over. Yeah, yeah. So,
Person was
lost that
okay?
client. Driver was fine. Driver was fine. What was in the truck was not fine. So,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, and things happen, right? Luckily, we've been very blessed. We've never had any major issues on the road. Um, we've had some drivers fall ill and have some problems, but those are things that we've been able to resolve. So it's worked out. And we've never had any major weather delays that have prevented a show from starting and the good thing is, for the most part, we're working with professionals. So the people doing the routing, the people planning, they know, they anticipate, they know what's happening. They can look at the routing and say, okay, this is December or November, or there's possibility of weather in February. We need a little bit more of a stretch of a time to get from point A to point B. For the most part, we've had some that have not. And, honestly, if we have something where there's a concern might not make it, we voice the concern and we try to work out solutions with them, whether it's we skip that show with those trucks and they get a B rig, or we double up drivers, or yeah. So we work with them on solutions and we're pretty transparent about it.
I know we're talking offline, but one of the things for when I was doing the Formula One job was the logistics for the TV. So there was air freight, there was sea freight, there was jumping over from this sea freight's going around here because that's going to take 2 months to get there, and then this one is going to take, like, this will jump over straight away. These particular devices, we have to fly them, so they're air freight, but that costs more money. The
Right.
carnets, everything that goes into the carnets, we had batteries that were traveling, so we had to take all the batteries out of everything, put them in a separate thing. The logistics of that, I mean, I look back and I think, wow, like, that was pretty, like, intense to try and organize and have every single TV basically logged within each container going to various different places. I got in trouble once because I'd put something in the air freight. Oh, I think it was sea freight, actually. And then when it got there, they were like, that wasn't on the carnet. And I was like, I forgot to put, and it wasn't even, it was quite a big thing. So it was like quite noticeable. And he was like, it's lucky, we're F1. So we generally don't get stopped a lot, but he laughed at me. I mean, this was many years ago, by the way, but you have to log everything. And the same as with everything that's going into the trucks now. I mean, how does that work for you going, obviously you've got the carnets in every single truck.
Well, if we're crossing a border, so we don't always
Yeah.
go to Canada, but we do go to Canada. We have our Canadian
Mm-hmm.
authority. We do go over the border. And depending on the artist we're working with, many have done it many times, very used to it. They know what they're doing. Some go carnets.
Yep.
Temp bonds are very popular in touring, where it's just an in and out. Carnets, it's not as complicated as a carnet. One of the, not complications, but one of the more challenging ways to cross the border is with merch. If the tour is selling merch, then there has to be a very clear inventory down to every pin and sticker going in, and then they have to declare coming out because they might have sold merch in Canada.
Yes.
Yeah. And honestly, a lot of our artists, they just dump the merch at the border and they don't take any to Canada. It's easier.
Wow. Never
Yeah.
that. We were traveling because obviously in Europe it's slightly different because you are going through, well, okay, most of it's Europe, but coming back into the UK now really is a nightmare.
Different.
Like, really is a
Since
nightmare.
Brexit, right?
And
Yeah.
yeah, with the Brexit. And on the catering truck, like they had to get rid of everything before they came over. And some of the things, it was like, that's just a lot of things were kept, but a lot of it was like, nope, you can't take anything through. And
Right.
then you go they were traveling straight through and going into Ireland, which is Europe. So then you had to get rid of everything you got in England to go out again.
Gosh.
Really, it was like the logistics of that, and the merch team, they had to be aware of that, because obviously anything going in and out of Europe. But I was pretty sure that they had, like, a basically another, like you said, dump it at the border, or
Right.
like get it sent out that way.
Right. We
Um,
just did one tour where the entire merch truck just stayed behind. Didn't even
yeah,
go into
yeah,
Canada. They
yeah.
just kept it all in one truck, parked it, and those poor Canadians don't get to buy t-shirts. So,
Okay, fair
yeah.
enough. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, going, like, really, what initially got you into trucking? So when you left college, school, whatever, like,
Yeah.
how did you get into trucking?
So I had always been in sales my most of my life. Really, my most of my life I've been in some form of sales. Um, and I went into sales just because I love talking to people and I loved the flexibility and the ability to just control your own income. So, um, and I was at a point in my life where I needed to make a decision, I needed to make a change. And this is back when I don't know how old you are, but at the time, the internet was still dial up. So you
Yeah,
would
I'm
type
that
out
old.
your resume. Yeah, you type out your resume and you would mail it in and you would just wait for the phone to ring. And so I had two opportunities that came my way um, that were both in sales, and I could have gone in two different directions. And I chose this one. Honestly, I can admit now, I don't know what I was doing. I didn't even I didn't even know what the company did. Um, yeah. So I was hired. I was young, I was cute. A couple of guys interviewed me, hired me on the spot. I was the first business manager for this company in Boston. It was a nationwide company. Um, my boss was out of New Jersey. So I showed up the first day on the job. My boss isn't there, somebody else is. He's supposed to be training me, and he said, "I'm in the middle of an emergency. Go sit in your office and read some manuals or something." So that was what I did all day. And he came out at the end of the day and he said, "So what questions do you have?" And I said, "How many planes do we have?" Yeah. And he looked at me and he said, "What did you just say?" And I said, how many planes do we have?" And he said, "Why do you think we have airplanes?" And the company's name had air in the name. And in the manuals I was given, we went from airport to airport. So I was learning all the airport codes. My office was outside the airport. So he said, "Why would you think we have planes?" And I said, "There's a picture of them on the wall with the company name on it." And he goes, "Those are corporate jets." And he goes, "Come with me." And he takes me out on the dock, and there's this big open dock warehouse space with dock doors. And he said, "What do you see?" And I said, "Freight." And he said, "What's the freight doing?" And I said, "It's getting loaded on those trucks." He goes, "Where are the trucks going?" And I said, "To our planes." I mean, that was, yeah. I'll probably never live that one down in that company. They probably still talk about me.
But I think that's brilliant, because really, where are all our airplanes?
I think I still blush talking about it, to be honest, because it was just a totally dumb. So, anyway, but it worked out. Loved the company, loved the job. I got into trucking sort of inadvertently. And yeah, so I was with that company for a short while. And then I was actually hired by one of my clients and then wound up staying there. Like I said, it was almost 20 years.
And so
Yeah.
you mentioned that your son had joined you. Is your son still part of your business now?
He is. Yes. Yes. He's a bit older than you would expect. I had him when I was very young. And he joined in, I think it was 2018. Um, he really surprised me. You know, as a teenager, he was a little wayward. And, took him a little while for that, frontal lobe to develop fully, but he just kills it. He's absolutely amazing. We're incredibly close. We talk every single day, and we are very much in alignment on business and on honestly on a lot of things. We talked already this morning. We have a call in the morning. We usually talk at least once or twice more during the day. Um, he's taken a lot of pressure off, and he's taken on a lot of things. So while he's is still in Boston, he still manages that facility. He's now really working more with the drivers directly. He's managing the trucks, the repairs, the drivers, um, all of
That's
that. So he's
great.
really embraced that side of it and taken on a lot of that from me, which is fantastic. Yeah.
That is really good. And I love that there's the family connection. So you feel like you have got, not saying that if it was somebody else in that role, you wouldn't feel that connection, but being that close to your son to do it is great. And your daughter, you mentioned that she was loved the music industry. Is she in the industry, or
She
did she go somewhere
is.
else?
She is. Yeah, yeah. So, so my son actually became a partner. I brought him on as a
Yep.
partner in 2020. And then my daughter, after she graduated from Belmont, she became a concert promoter. So she's still in concert promotion. She's been doing that. She's going to kill me for not knowing, I guess like 7 or 8 years now. Yeah, it's been 7 or 8 years.
It's
So
incredible.
and she's based in Nashville. So we really don't have a lot of overlap, but we have a lot of overlap of understanding of what each other does. And a lot of times we'll get quotes or bookings, and I have no idea who the artist is. So she's the first person I text and say, "Do you know who this is?" And she either goes, "No," or she's like, "Oh my gosh," one or the other. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
when
it's
you
great to
have
have it.
someone that
Right.
approaches you, says, okay, I need X amount of trucks. I don't know, this is what we're going to be carrying. This is where our gigs are going to be. Do you come up with the plan, the route, you basically give the lowdown on everything to the tour manager, and say, right, this is what we recommend. At this point, we think you need a double driver. At this point, we need this. We need this. Is that kind of what you'll do, or is there somebody else doing that? Like, what? How does your day unfold once you get that call?
Yeah. So it varies. It varies. Most are pretty experienced. They know what they're doing.
Hmm.
Most when they're running it, they're pretty sure they know when they're going to need a co-driver, when they might not. So when they send a quote over, we put it in the system. We'll run the mileage. We run the hours.
Hmm.
Um, we know the driver's hours of service. So we make sure that we know how long it's taking them to get from venue to venue. We'll add a little extra time if they're going through LA, New York, major cities, crossing borders, that kind of thing. But we'll go through, we'll run the mileage and the hours, and then we'll put the pricing together for them. We do have a program that we offer to newer tours or smaller tours, that if it's a one truck tour and they're not very experienced, we put an experienced driver on the tour with them. So we call that tour up. And it's not something we charge extra for, but it's something where we're kind of investing in them long term, and we want that tour to be successful. So we put an experienced driver on the tour with them who really helps them get through the process, where some of them have never crossed the Canadian border before. Some of them may have never dealt with parking in New York City or situations like that, where the driver is really, really helpful and hands-on and will help or not help as much as they want. He's there to support them in whatever way they want. So,
Which is
but most
fantastic.
tours know what they're doing by the time it gets to us. Yeah.
That is good. I've been on a tour before where, okay, on paper or on maps, it looks like this, but it isn't. And really, they'd come over from like the States, coming over to this side, and even the drivers and stuff, they weren't necessarily that helpful. And this poor production manager, he was getting like after everything had been set in stone, one person would say, "Oh, it's gonna take 8 hours, and then we need the breaks, and you're not gonna get there till 12 o'clock in the afternoon." And then another person, because that's all they do. They whisper, they talk, and you can never get a straight answer. And it's like, okay, so having this tore up is brilliant, because you need somebody that's really going to know, not just say, "Oh, no, 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 that's going to take you this time to get here, to get there." Because everybody, anybody, we didn't care if it was 12 o'clock. We just needed to know, okay, it's going to be 12 o'clock.
Right.
And then it
Well,
turns out we were there at 9 o'clock. So it's like, guys, like,
yeah.
come on.
Yeah, you do try to deal in worst case scenarios with some of those situations because
Hmm.
you do want to prepare them. But one of the things that we do once we do get a booking, and if somebody asks for it before they book, you'd probably do it anyway. But generally, once someone commits to a booking, we schedule a call together, and we bring in the lead driver, whether it's one driver or 12 drivers. But we bring in the lead driver, and we have a Teams call. So we go over prior to that call, the driver has gone through the routing, he's looked at the venues. If there's venues he's not familiar with, he'll research them a little bit, and we'll address all of that on our call. So we'll talk about things like venue parking, or he'll say, "Hey, I've been to this venue before. Um, this is the challenge getting in there. Are we street loading? Do you need this type of a ramp? We're picking up merch. Do you need something?" There's a thing called an attic that you build in a trailer. Do you need an attic in the trailer? Um, so we go over all of that in our pre-tour call. Everything from pickups to returns, really just getting all the information. But it also gives the lead driver and the production manager that opportunity to start their relationship
I was going to say,
several weeks ahead of the
yeah.
tour. Yeah.
Which is great, because same thing, you need that connection. You can't just all of a sudden, you turn up the first gig and you're like, "Oh, hi, I'm so and so. Yep, nice to meet you," and bang. So at least you've got that connection from day one. And what would be like a challenge on the road that most people, even inside or outside of the industry, wouldn't expect? So what would say is like one of your biggest challenges that people are unaware of, but actually, this is one of our biggest challenges.
Yeah, let me think. I think it falls into different categories. So you could talk about major catastrophic. So that would fall under the
Mhm.
illness, accidents, right? Those types of things. So setting that kind of thing aside, some of the challenges, I would say I'm very protective of our drivers. Um, they're all friends, and I treat them like that, and they treat me like that as well. So some of the things are not being treated well on the road. Um, that's a concern, and that has to be addressed. And some of the drivers were like, "Well, I'll deal with it. I don't want to make waves." We had one tour, it was a very short tour, 5 trucks on the tour, and they were treated horribly. And the lead driver didn't tell me until the end of the tour, and he said, "I didn't want to make trouble. It was only 3 weeks." And every driver at the end of that called me individually and said, "I'll never work with them again." And I said, "Neither will I. That's fine. That's okay." But so how they're treated, and drivers are a little different because the bus drivers are on the bus and they're getting to know everybody, right? And so they have that relationship and it's developed because of the proximity. Truck drivers don't have the proximity that the bus drivers do. So sometimes they're
Yep.
just a little bit outside the circle. So
Hmm.
pulling them into the circle, getting them acclimated, making sure that they are part of the team, that's really important. Um, and for truck drivers, one of the biggest challenges, and again, I love them, but they gossip more than teenage girls. So
I,
news
I,
travels
I,
really fast,
yep.
and negative things travel really fast, and positive things travel really fast. So you have to be really cautious about what you're saying, who you're saying it to, who's aware of it. Um, yeah. So it's both a good and a bad, because I get to hear a lot of things from the road. They'll call and they'll tell me things that are going on, and sometimes the bus drivers are the best sources of information because they'll say, "Hey, by the way, I heard the production manager is leaving this tour, and he mentioned he has another tour coming up in the fall that's not announced yet. And I'm like, oh, good. Well, let's get to work on that. Um, on the other hand, if there's something negative and it's starting to spread and go around, or they're not getting along well, those are
I've always
definitely
felt that
concerns.
for me, I mean, so this year we went back into the touring and I was back into the catering side of things. So I went back into the catering, I was doing the dressing rooms, and I always feel that truck drivers and bus drivers are always sometimes treated a little bit differently.
Hmm.
The bus driver that you're on, so it could be, so everyone's friendly with their bus driver because obviously
Hmm. Hmm.
that's their friends. The
Right.
other bus drivers, the people on that, say bus number 1, don't know who bus number 2 is or bus number 3 is or bus number 4. So often they're kind of like left out depending on the tour. And I've done a few now. I'll talk to the bus drivers and the truck drivers and I'll be like, "Oh, where are you staying tonight?" I know they stay on their buses or in their trucks. That's what they do. So that's not, I don't expect everyone to then to come into the hotels with us and be that team. But that sometimes they're like, we got put like miles out the way, like miles out the way for whatever reason. It could be budget, it could be anything. And one particular tour, they were like, but we know where we can stay for cheaper, for this, for that. And then they do start doing, a bit of this, a bit of that, and it's kind of feels like moaning, like, in my eyes. But then at the same time, they're just trying to like, I don't know, voice their opinion that we don't feel like we're being welcome right now. And I'll always, the first thing we had like a little like catering team meeting. I said, guys, the first thing I want us to do, not only look after all the tour, but really let's make sure truck drivers, bus drivers are really treated really well, because not that we're going to treat anybody any differently, but I've been on a tour as well before when some of the catering have gone, oh, the bus drivers, they're the first ones in. Yeah, because that's the time that suits them, because they're going to go to bed in a minute, because they're going to
Exactly.
drive us all the way through the night. And they've
Right.
got this like a horrible feeling towards them, or I don't know, whatever it is. Sometimes we had to make sandwiches, make them with love, make them with love. Don't just
Right.
go, there's your nice.
Right.
Um,
Because they've been sitting in a truck, and as much as they are alone, they tend to be very social people.
yeah, they
And when they're
are.
in the truck, they're talking all the time. They're calling friends, they're calling each other, they're having conversations. So when they get there, they want to be part of the team. They want to be
Yeah.
engaged. Most of them, there's some people that don't, but most of them, they want to feel like they're part of the group. And we've had tours where they have told the drivers, you're not welcome in catering. You get per diem. You don't need to be in catering. Yeah. Or there's some tours, if they're very large, they give out tickets for catering, which is fine. But when they're giving them out, the drivers are sleeping. So then they're chasing down, how do I get a ticket when I'm awake? So there's
And then it
complications
becomes
with
like
it.
then they're coming to when they're trying to find the tickets, the production manager or whatever is really stressed at this point. So then they become
Right.
like a burden, but they're not,
Right.
just because they haven't thought about it's the same as any job. I've always believed in my life that I've always started like at the bottom and worked my way up, because I want to know how everybody is working and know how everybody's feeling.
Very important.
Okay, I'm not going to go and be a truck driver, but I also ask them. Like I do ask, okay, so what is it? What does your day look like? And they'll be like, okay, well, as soon as we get, you don't see this part, but as soon as we arrive, we load in, we load out, we then go clean the trucks. So then they're cleaning them, so they make them all
Right.
shiny and all the rest of
Yes.
it, because it's a professional. They don't go in there looking disgusting.
They
Same as
don't
the
want it
bus
to be
drivers.
dirty. They don't want it to look unprofessional. They really take pride in their equipment.
I've never seen a dirty truck, a dirty bus at any one of my tours, because but we don't see them do that because we're busy. We're in the venue at this point. We're busy. But then what you will see, obviously, is say once they've done all that, they've come back and they're sat around or whatever, or they're the first ones in catering and they're like, cool, you know, you're the first ones in cake. No, that's their time. That's their rest time. They're also then going to go back to the bus. They're going to sleep. I mean, when I was doing all the buses, all the bus stock, the guys would be like, okay, if you get everything ready before 5, we'll be able to help you. And I was like, okay, that sounds fair. He said, but if not, after 5, we're all asleep. He goes, there's the master key. Let yourself in. But again, can you be respectful and don't go in and go boom, boom, boom? Of course I will. You
We're
know?
sleeping. Yeah. Oh, well, we don't sleep on the buses. The drivers do sleep in their own trucks, or, you know, they get a hotel for
Yeah.
the night or that
So
kind of
yeah,
thing.
I've like buses and the truck drivers.
But
But
yeah,
a lot of the truck drivers, they are actually, I tell you what, the last tour I just did, there was probably about, I think maybe even 10 of them. They also volunteered, or not volunteered, they obviously got paid extra, but to do the spots. So they did the
yeah,
spotlights for the show.
yeah.
Well, I think this is brilliant because really they come in, they have lunch and they're like, we're not going to come for dinner, Sarah, you know, so you won't see us. We'll save them a box up because they'll sleep right the way through to the show, go do the spots. And of course, then they've got load out. Well, that group of people that did it, all the truck drivers that did this, well, they were loved by everybody because, of course, they really were part of the show.
Yeah.
And I thought that's really good, you know, because they really wanted to be part of the crew more so. So I love that. I love that they were being, oh, I just flicked my pen lid. They were being like, you know, included in it. And there's one thing I do always talk about, and that is mental health. And I certainly saw a lot of different emotions going through, even with the truck drivers and also the bus drivers, because it must be so intense. And again, people don't realize. Is there like, I know you work with Echo Live, but is there like a, I don't know, a truck driver helpline that you have where, you know, someone's having a tough day and, you know, they can just call and say, I
My
don't know.
cell number.
Yeah, your cell number. Yeah.
It's my cell number. Yeah. You know, and truly it is my cell number. And my son's as well. All the drivers
Hmm.
have our cell numbers, and they know that if they need us, we're there and they can call. Um, if there's an emergency during the night, it depends on the level of emergency, whether or not they call. They're all equipped to handle and flat tires and, you know, things like that. And they're all empowered to handle it how it needs to be handled, whether it's a roadside service or a repair or whatnot. So they don't disturb us for those things. It's usually a report in the morning. By the way, this happened last night and here's how we're dealing with it. Um, but we've had some, you know, we had one tour that was particularly challenging, and the lead driver called me at 5 a.m. in tears. And we just,
Good.
yeah,
That's good
yeah,
though. That's
yeah.
good.
And we just talked, and he cried and I cried, and we, you know, and I listened, and, you know, and we got through it. And there's been some tragedies that have happened on the road. But so for those sort of things, we do have a lot of respect for them, and we treat them as humans and as individuals, and not everybody has the same needs. Time off, we're very flexible. If somebody calls and they're on tour and they're having a tough time, or a family member is sick or something, they need to get home, they'll go home. I would never ask anybody to stay on the road if they feel that they need to be somewhere else. They're going to go, and we'll deal with it. We'll deal with it.
That's a great attitude because
Yeah.
if everybody that works for you knows this, they're going to feel cared for, they're going to feel loved. And like this particular driver calling you up at 5 a.m., I said that was brilliant because he didn't deal with it on his own. He called you
Yeah.
like, and you was
Yeah.
there. So that's
Yeah.
brilliant.
The funny part of that story is I was on vacation, and I never told him I went on vacation because I didn't want him to think he couldn't call. He still
Again,
doesn't know to this
see?
day, so I'm not telling him about this podcast.
Yeah, but that again, that just makes you a great human to not say it, to, you know, so then anybody can call you at any point. And the fact that you've still never told him, you know, like
Yeah.
that, it's That's a really, really nice quality in being you.
And I don't say this to lift myself up in
No,
any way. I say
no.
it more as an example for, um, they're great people. They really are. And there's very few people in the world that I think are truly horrible,
Mhm.
intentionally unkind, or intentionally horrible. We're all just different and different personalities, and my
Yeah,
personality doesn't always jive with everybody. I know that, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, they just deserve to be treated respectfully, just like I do, no different. And and that goes to my drivers, that goes to the people who do the billing, that goes to the controller, my
mhm.
admin, anybody who's our vendors, our clients. It's just there's no reason not to play nice in the sandbox, there just isn't. And if you're not happy, go find another sandbox to play in. It's that
Yeah.
simple.
And I think for people, I mean, I remember when it was my first tour over in America, and it's very different from Europe. Everything about it, the trucks are massive,
Yes.
like everything is just bigger.
Yep.
And I remember there was one, I can still see him now, one truck driver that came into catering, and he was really rude. I mean, really, really rude to myself and another lady. And he walked away, and one of the tour crew members came up, and they were like, well, that really wasn't good. Anyway, this particular person told the tour manager, the manager came and all the rest of it. And I was like, don't want to make a big thing about this, because I don't. And anyway, I approached this truck driver and I said, I just want to say this was the next time when he came in. And I just asked, I said, is everything okay with you? And he was like, kind of rude still. Was like, like, kind of, who are you? I said, I don't think you realize, but like, we're on tour with you for the whole way. And he was like, oh, you're not local catering. And I said, no. I said, but not that it should make a difference whether I'm local or tour, because it
Sure
shouldn't.
shouldn't.
I said, but we are actually on tour all together. And he changed. He thought about it. Anyway, afterwards, it turned out that he did. He had some family issues going on. Not that, again, it's not an excuse,
Right,
because it's
right.
not, but the whole thing, but he changed, like, really. And he said sorry to both of us and my friend and blah, blah, blah. But you never know what people have got going on.
You really
Not that I'm
don't.
excusing him for being rude, because that was bad. Um, but
Well,
at
I
least,
mean, let's be honest, some people are just jerks. They
yeah,
are.
yeah, they are.
But let's find out first.
Yeah,
Is there
exactly.
something going on, or are you just kind of a jerk? Like,
And if you're a jerk, I'm really not going to be nice to you for the whole tour.
we'll just, yeah,
I'll
like I
be
said, go play
polite.
in a different sandbox. Hopefully she doesn't spit in your sandwich. We'll see.
Never done that.
Yeah.
But
But
as
I mean,
obviously
and
this is
it's not a perfect situation, and but like I said, for the most part, we've had bigger tours. I'll fly into rehearsals. We'll have a driver's meeting. We had one, um, we were at Lidditz. Yeah. Rehearsals were at Rock Lidditz. I flew in. I took all the drivers out the night before. We went out for barbecue and hung out, and because I don't always know all the drivers. I know my drivers, but then we
Mhm.
contract in, like every company
Yeah, of
does. We'll
course.
bring in
Yep.
contractors. So our drivers are lead. We bring in other people. So we all went out the night before. We went out for barbecue. Went to, um, had rehearsals, and one of the drivers, I could see it during the drivers meeting. I could see there was going to be a problem. And so the lead driver and I talked about it, and I said, I, I, I think there's going to be an issue here from some of the things he's saying. And I flew home within a couple of days during rehearsal still, within
Okay.
a couple of days. Lead driver called me and he said, hey, he's being unkind. He's saying some things about other people, the band, this other
Oh,
driver. He's
a
kind
bad
of
egg.
saying it to be funny, but it's not funny, and he's being unkind. And I said, okay, he's done. Like, we don't. He was already like, we had already laid it out during the drivers meeting. Like, here's the rules. I'm super laid back about a lot of things, but here's what I'm not laid back about. I'm very strict
Mhm.
about, you know, being kind to each other. You don't make fun of each other. You don't say negative things about each other. You don't talk
Especially one of those
negatively.
people that wants the laugh on somebody else's expense. I
Yes.
hate that. I
Yeah.
hate that.
And it was addressed. I saw it. I knew it was happening. I knew it was going to continue happening. He had been spoken to once, so it was okay, we're not even starting tour with this guy. We're just
Yeah.
not.
Yep.
It's already there and he's making people uncomfortable. So, yeah. It's they're hard decisions to make, but it's for the betterment of the other 11 drivers that are on the tour and the company's reputation and
But that's also really good of the lead driver to actually really notice it after you'd gone, to keep an eye on it and not continue with the tour. Unlike obviously the one that you're saying where, that you'd had, a bad tour and that you wasn't told about it until the end. It was only 3
right.
weeks, so we just dealt with it because
Yeah,
again, nobody should deal with it for any amount of time.
right.
Whether that's the management being horrible to truck drivers, whether it's someone else, whether it's within your team,
Yeah,
like that can really break people no matter how long you've got to survive it.
yeah.
It can really break people and that's the dangerous point. Um, but I suppose with this being the Leading Ladies podcast, how many ladies do you have driving?
All right. So I don't have any that
Mhm.
drive for high road. However, we do have a relationship with another trucking company in Canada, and they have a fair amount of females. So we do have a lot of women that are out on the tours.
Mhm.
Um, and honestly, to me, and I've had this conversation with many people over the years about being a female in this industry, or what's it like being a female owning a trucking company. And my answer is, I've never been anything different. So I don't really think I could even answer that. Um,
Mhm.
because to me, I know there's problems and I know there's women that have been treated disrespectfully for their gender or, whatever. And have there been times over my lifetime that I felt like little ladyish? Sure. Have there been times that I'm okay with it? Absolutely. Yeah, let my husband deal with that. I don't want to. Um, I'm okay with it. But for the most part, I always have felt like I've been treated respectfully. As a female, I don't think it's ever affected my business relationship, my working relationship, or anything like that. I think maybe just the opposite, that there's almost more of a respectful relationship with the people because I'm a female. Um, Several of the drivers call me Mama Bear.
I
And
love.
again, I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
I'm okay
exactly.
with
Why
it.
not?
Yeah. They come to me with their problems. They know I'm going to be empathetic. And that is inherently a female trait, the nurturing piece of it. I just want, and some of it is personality, but I just want them to feel good, to feel appreciated, to be happy, to enjoy what they're doing, to have a good time, to provide a good living for their families. And, um, and I think because I'm a female, a lot of times they feel that they can tell me some of their issues, their struggles, send me pictures of their grandchildren or their children. And where if I were a male, I might not be on the receiving end of that.
Yeah, no, I
Um,
agree. And there's something that we should also be proud of that, that people feel confident to come to a woman, a lady or whatever, like that do feel confident to come because, like nature says that, you know, that's who we are, we're
yeah,
your mama bear, like,
yeah,
or you could say, oh, I'm going to go see dad now. Yeah, you can also go see dad.
yeah.
But,
He's going to tell you rub some dirt in it, suck it up and be a
yeah,
man. And that's okay.
yeah,
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a different, it's no different for going to see different people for different things. And I just feel like being a female, the one thing I will say, I never feel like I have to prove myself or be something different. I
mm-hmm,
don't feel the need. So the little asterisk here on this is I don't feel the need to curse to fit
mm-hmm,
in. and to
Yep.
drop F-bombs. And
Yep.
the little asterisk says, I sure do. When I get mad, I get a little bit of a potty mouth. And I try not to. Like, it's a problem. I tell myself, don't swear, don't say it, don't say it. And I'm like, and I do anyway. But I don't feel the need to change who I am to fit in, or to try to make other people feel more comfortable about me being there. Um, and one thing that's always kind of it's almost a pet peeve of mine is when people will say, "Oh my gosh, you own a trucking company, you're so badass." I'm like, "I'm really not that badass. I'm just doing my thing." Like, it just so happens it's trucking, whether it's trucking or ice cream or, what could I do that would make me not badass? Would you say that about me if I drove an ice cream truck? Like, it's just, to me,
No, I
it's
think that's
not.
badass. No, that's badass. We're not driving
Yeah,
an ice cream.
nobody's gonna say that, right? You teach ballet. Badass of you. No, it isn't. It's not badass of me to own a trucking company either. It's right. It's just,
And have you had any like female mentors over your career that really shaped the journey for you?
um,
Or someone that you've met now? Is there you mentioned actually you've got two friends. I don't know if they could be male. They could be male as well. But you have
yeah,
two friends that you meet, once or twice a month, which that again, having that, which is so hard when you're working hard. I've got friends here that I don't even see, and we live so close. And we've
yeah,
said now, once a month, we have to stop to see each other.
right,
I'm not saying they're my role models. Don't listen if you are.
right. Yeah, I do have some close friends. I have some close friends in the industry,
Hmm.
and I have some outside the industry. There's so I had mentioned I have a couple of friends that I'm particularly close to. We don't talk as much as I'd like to.
Hmm.
I do talk to the female more than the male, and it has more to do with just our roles and she's in the industry. She's a little bit more like me, has some flexibility. He's a high profile tour manager, and he does not have the same hours and flexibility that we do. Um, but they're the people that I can say almost anything to and share frustrations with, and they understand it on a deep level. Um, I will say I also have that in my husband and in my son. Um, my son understands. Not my husband does as well. They both understand. My son being in the industry gets a little bit more of it, and the actual piece of it. But my husband, who is not in the industry at all, has really, yeah, he's completely so removed from the industry. But he's such a kind and empathetic person, and so understanding and so engaged and interested in what I do that, yeah, I mean, he'll come with me, he'll travel with me when he can, when he has the flexibility. Um, but if there's a local rehearsal or a local load in or something, he's right there bringing pizza for the drivers.
Oh,
He knows their names. He knows what's going on. He's a pediatrician. And so when some of the drivers have medical issues, they're sending me pictures to show him, "Can you ask Andy what this means or what's going on with this?" And he's very, very gracious about helping them with those things. And so, yeah,
but
so
that's
he's
a
not in the
huge
industry, but
support for you.
yeah, and he sees what I deal with and he understands, and he's very, so I think I'm very blessed to have a lot of people who support me in that way. And even if they're in it or they're not in it, I have some friends who are business owners that are in a totally different realm, but they understand the pressures that you can face. And so, yeah, that's one of the things I will say. And you mentioned Echo Live. Um, One of the things that I really am passionate about in the industry and just in life in general, it's so important to have connections and to have those people and you may not have that one person that you can trust with absolutely everything. My best friend's amazing. She loves me. She's the first person to say, "Oh, you killed a body. Let me go get the shovel." Um, That's not always the best thing, though. It's not always the most helpful in the situation. Sometimes I want her to go, "What did you do?" So, but you have those people that always have your back, that will always listen. It's so important to have those connections. And that's one of the components of Echo Live that we really stress. It is a mental health thing. And it may not sound like it, but people think mental health and they think therapy, counseling, working on yourself. But having relationships and friendships is very, very important to your mental health, and having outlets, whether it's, you don't necessarily, people always say, "What are your hobbies?" And I'd always say, "Work." I don't understand the question. My hobbies are work, but it's because I love what I do. I'm happy with that. So, but if you have that outlet where you love kayaking and you go out and do that, or you love to go listen to live music or line dance or movies or reading books or working out or whatever that may be, find your people, find your tribe, find people to experience things with. And even if you're not talking about, oh, things are so horrible or whatever, you have their presence, that they're there, you're connected, you feel loved, you feel cared for. It's really, really important.
It's let's say an open podcast with myself, basically about mental health, about everything, because it's very easy for me to sit here, literally since before COVID, having been on tour, and go blah 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 blah. Yes, you should do this. Yes, you should do that. There's this. There's that. But actually, being on tour, it changed my whole perspective again. So having connections like Echo Live, having them on your Facebook scroll, seeing their posts pop up. I need to speak to Cara because they don't pop up as much as they should in my eyes.
I'll
No,
have a word.
really. No. And that just sprung to mind actually, because things that do is, when things pop up, you're like, oh yeah, I'm not alone, or whatever. Or it's directing at the people that are not aware of mental health and issues that people can be going through. So sometimes I think we're approaching the wrong people. So we're approaching the people that are coming to Echo Live and going, oh, wow, like me, this is amazing. I'm going to follow you. I'm going to this. But actually, we should try and be approaching the people that are so stern that actually you need to like release a little bit more and be aware of your behavior.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it can be their behavior that has triggered somebody into a sad moment. And the other person really, they didn't realize they said something horrible. Like, let's take the driver that you didn't let go forward. Maybe he was unaware of his actions by these diggy comments actually hurt people. Now, the person that gets hurt is the one that goes to Echo Live, or the one that looks up and goes, have I got a problem because my emotions are up and down right now? But
Yeah.
actually the trigger was this person. So
Yeah.
now
Well, and I'd love to say he was unaware, but boy, was he aware.
oh,
But
okay.
I
So he
completely
was aware.
agree with you. And so Echo Live, we've been on the forefront of mental health for 12 years, more
Mm,
than 12 years, right? So
yeah.
we were in mental health before people really thought about mental health. But we've really just come full circle, and we're looking at the whole person. And so a year and a half ago, a little bit more than that, we started a new program called Day Off.
Yeah, I love
And
this. I love
it's
this.
in Nashville. It is in Nashville, but we're hoping enough people tour through Nashville that it makes a difference in, everybody in the touring industry. But
You've
what
just
Day
had one,
Off
haven't you?
was that?
You've just had one? Was it on the 12th or something?
We did. Yeah, we just
Yeah,
had one. So we do it every month, and we target the second Monday of the month so that there's consistency. It is
brilliant.
generally a day off for people if they're in Nashville, but we do all kinds of social activities together. And I mean everything you can think of. It was really born of, I had some friends in the industry, and we would get together when we were all in town, and we would go do just whatever. I was like, I don't want to go meet for happy hour. I don't necessarily want to go drink. And I don't really want to take time away from home in the evenings either. But, I'm not interested in sitting at a bar all night. So we would go do other things. We'd go kayaking. We went to the zoo. We went and walked the cemetery one day because it was one we had never been in, and we were just curious about the history of the whatever. So we just would do random things. And so I was like, wouldn't this be fun if we did this as an industry? And so we started Day Off through Echo Live. Chris Lyle, the founder, was very
Yeah, he's
enthusiastic and
great.
supportive. Um, and we've done, so we now have an event committee that plans this monthly, and we, look for different opportunities. And it may not, every month may not speak to everyone, but we're hoping that there's something that will, spark your interest and you'll want to come. So we've done goat yoga. We have done cornhole tournaments. We've gone and served the homeless together. Kayaking. We went to a comedy night. We went to a baseball game. We have an ice cream social coming up in September. So there's always something unique and different. We'll do a tour. We did a tour of a production studio. We try to keep the cost as low as possible. It's either free or we keep it around $10. We try to get sponsors to come in and offset the cost. But it's an opportunity. And one thing I will say is some people wind up, either they commit and they don't go, or afraid to go, and they're like, oh, it's going to be, I don't know anybody. I have never gone to a Day Off and not met somebody I didn't know before. Excuse me. I have never gone to a Day Off and met someone I didn't know before. The day we went kayaking, there was only 4 of us, and I didn't know 3 of them. So there's always an opportunity that there's going to be new people. And so for someone to not come because they think, oh, I don't know anybody, this has been going on a while, I'm uncomfortable going to this alone. I go alone all the time, and there's always people I don't know. And that's okay. And you'll meet
Yeah,
people
of
and you'll
course it
make
is.
connections.
Yeah, I love that. I love the Day Off. I'm a huge supporter of Echo Life. I have been since it was Touring Career Workshop.
Yes.
Like really, it's something that it's needed. It's needed to be part of the industry.
Yeah.
The more that every second Monday you do this, the more people are going to know about it. And I didn't know it was. I knew it was once a month, but I didn't know that was. I didn't know that that was the
Yeah.
plan.
We
So
try. Not
yeah,
every event can happen on that date, but
yeah,
we shoot for that. That's the goal.
yeah, and that really is having people know. Like who have I just had on? Oh, what's her lovely name? Rachel Bronstein. So she came on last week. She's amazing.
Rachel's one of my people.
She is so
She's one of the
nice,
tribe. Yeah.
really,
She's fantastic.
and was everything that she does. And we spoke about all of this as well. How financial aid can be in that same category as well. But she was talking about Echo Live, and yeah, really, I was like, yeah, you're great. And the more people that we're aware of that are out there, I always believe is a really good thing. So even me doing this, the leading ladies, I have met some incredible people, including yourself, including Rachel, Cara, and I'm so honored to be sat here talking to you about your career, where you've gone, and difficulties that you've faced. Yeah, super lucky, because that actually makes me a better person hearing these things as well. So I hope people that listen to the podcast get the same feeling. That's why I do it, just to make people more aware of jobs in the industry, problems, all of these things. So one of my
Rachel's been such a blessing to Echo Live. She joined the board this year.
Mhm.
She does fantastic work with her own company, Life's Jam, but she's brought that financial part into Echo Live and really opened a lot of eyes of how important finances are to your mental health, because what's the number one thing everybody worries about? Money,
number one. Number
right?
one.
It's money, it's relationships, but money is really high up there, especially for people who tour with inconsistent incomes. So she's done a great job of that, and she's really brought that to Echo Live and opened up that communication with us and really started to dive into that more, where we recognize that finances are a big part of mental health. So, like I said, when we talk about mental health, we're not just talking about therapy, counseling. No, I think that's an important part of mental health, but it's not the only part of mental health.
No, I mean, it's huge, like mental health side of things, like bringing on, Rachel the last week, actually, yeah, finance, that's a huge thing. That's a huge part of how it can affect your day-to-day life, how can it affects everything.
Right.
Um, and, even for yourself now being really okay, touring, F1, all of it, we call it a male-dominated environment, which it's slowly changing, but the percentage is still, it's still male-dominated. For me, in my eyes, you with the trucking, that really is male dominated. That's a male dominated world. When I asked you, like, how many lady drivers do you have? Like, I've probably only met, I would say, less than half a dozen in my whole touring career
Mhm.
here and F1 that there was a
Hmm.
lady driver. Really, there was very, very few. Um, so I suppose if we've got anything else as well. But one of my last questions would be, what advice would you have for young women looking to break into the industry, the logistics world of trucking and also touring? What advice would you give them?
Do it. I mean, it's not, yeah, just like there's no reason not to, right? Like just do follow your passion. I think, there are more women drivers in the industry now than before, but with that, I it's not for everybody. It's not something that's cut out for everybody. And like I said with the drivers, right? Drivers can be very social. Women tend to be very social. So it's a very isolating job to be in a truck by yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
you're generally long periods of time. I mean, you'll drive 10 hours a
Yeah.
day and then you're
Yes.
sleeping 10 hours a day. So, or whatever, whatever they're sleeping. So, it can be
That
very
suits me.
lonely and very isolating. Yeah, but that's not necessarily for somebody who's more social. Um, there's parts of touring that, some people love. I could never imagine sleeping in a bus. I couldn't do it. I just
But
couldn't
I love that
do
bit.
it. Yeah, no, I couldn't be with that many people in that much of a confined space for that. I'm I'm social, but when I need my downtime, and I don't want anyone.
Anyone about.
Yeah, I just need it to be quiet, and yeah, I couldn't do it. um but I will say, if you have a passion for, first of all, for one thing in particular, if you love figuring out how things work, go figure out how things work, whether that's audio or visual, or you're on the production side. If you're musical at all and you don't want to be an artist, go be a guitar tech, figure that piece out. um there's a lot of non-touring jobs. My daughter is a huge music fan. Huge. And when she first started, it was funny, when she first started gaining interest in the industry, she was like, I think I want to go on tour. And she quickly was like, I never want to go on tour. And, and she's a concert promoter. So there's so many different, there's business. If you're into numbers, you can be a business manager. Um, there's so many parts of the industry that I think people just aren't aware of. Um, and for logistics, if you are very logistics minded, that'd
Mm-hmm.
be great. Come
Yeah.
do some quotes, do routing, help figure out how the trucks get from point A to point B. You can be a mechanic if you like fixing trucks. There's just so many things that support. If you think about a concert, and people go and they enjoy and they like the music, and then, they feel good and they go home. But if you stop for a minute at a concert and you look around and you really think about what it took,
There's
catering,
so
right?
many people that don't know still.
Right. So
They
that's what I mean.
still don't know.
I think anybody in any position could go to a concert and look around and figure out what they could do to work in the live music industry. I don't think
Okay.
Let's play that game at some point. Like, what
I was just
job
gonna
would
say,
you do that would not work? Maybe a
so
Formula One driver, but he could drive a truck. So
A lot of times, and I mean, you'll probably know this as well. Like you're not allowed to post things on socials because it's all very secretive. It's all like everything
yeah,
about it.
yeah,
So maybe that's kind of one thing why people are unaware of what goes on behind the scenes, because you're not allowed to take a photo from backstage, or like those thousands of people come into an arena, they
yeah,
sit down, it's all done, everybody's calm, they don't realize that where they walked in, they've had trucks turning back and forth, the odd time lapse video that's gone around, but
yes,
how many people are going to see that?
right,
But really, for me, maybe if it wasn't so, I understand the secretiveness of it because
yeah.
you don't want to spoil the
The
whole
mystery, the
mystery
vibe,
of
and just yeah, you're
everything. But how many people are really looking at it and going, how did they put that light up there? I bet they just think that stage is there the whole time and the band just rock up and go ding, 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 and leave.
yeah,
They don't
yeah.
realize. I mean, the amount of people that I've told them that we just toured and there was 20 trucks and there was 8 buses. What?
Even
Nobody
even
realizes
even
that.
being in the industry, sometimes I meet people and I'm like, "What do you do? That's a thing? Oh my gosh." Went to the conference at Lidditz 2 years ago, I think, and I gave somebody a ride to the airport. We drove from Lidditz back to Philly, and we talked, and I was like, "So what do you do in the industry?" So he's the one who goes and, like, lays out the stadium before the tour and literally lays it out, and I was like, "That's a thing? Oh my gosh, how did you get into that? That's amazing." Safety, people who follow the weather to make sure what's going on. It's like
Yeah.
there's that's it's funny. We do this thing. High Road has on our Instagram, High Road USA. Um, we do this thing called Frequently Asked Fridays, where we take questions that somebody's asked outside the industry. What do you want to know about live
That's
music
cool.
or entertainment or the industry? And so some of the questions are pretty interesting. Um, but that just made me think of it. That would be such a fun thing to do, to go to a concert and say to somebody, okay, let's figure out what you could do here for a living. What do you do? You're an accountant? Great. You could be a business manager. You could be a tour accountant. You're a baker? Great. You could go on tour. You could be on the catering team. You could do this. You could do that. I mean, there's really, whether you travel, you tour or not, you support in an
Yeah.
office, there's so many jobs out there that people can do.
We're organizing. So you say, are you going to go to the conference at Lidditz this year?
Yes. I've been every year
Yes.
since started. Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to be at LDI this year, which I think is like a couple of days before. And
Yes.
we're organizing in the daytime. I say it's going to be I'm the secret one, but it's Marcel, the boss. Like the names on it's obviously LDI doing this X Live, which is panels, and we're going to be talking about Road to Success is one of them, and it is aimed at the younger generation coming in to the industry to ask the questions and all the rest of it. And we've also got Jake Berry. He's also organizing it. So it's kind of a big thing right now. And then in the evening, we've got something called Dining with Dinosaurs. And it's going to be, I think at the moment we've got like 20 dinosaurs, but we've got, top of first name, Roy Bickle. He's the legendary rigger. We had him on the podcast the other week. He's amazing. I've been doing so much work with him.
Yeah.
He's going to be on the panel.
Amazing.
We've got some Carol Dodds is coming on. We've got so many incredible, and we're calling them dinosaurs, but like they're the legends that has started our
Yes.
industry.
Yes.
And the same thing, we're going to be talking about how they got into the industry, but also giving the guidance to kids coming into the industry. But what I would love to do is, how do you reach the school kids? How do we reach these people?
Well, so we live in Nashville, so this is a very music-focused
Mhm.
area. And so I will say for our local county, we have music business programs that are not focused on being an artist. And a lot of these kids, their parents are artists, or their parents are touring, or their parents are in the industry, right? But we have that in this area where it's a music business. One thing, so you mentioned Touring Career Workshop, Echo Live. Our workshop is coming up in November, and we're in the process of working out our sessions. But one session that we've been thinking about, everybody talks about the young people coming into the industry and how can we raise that up? But there's so many of us that this was not. We didn't get into this as children. We came into it later in life. I came into it after 40. Rachel came into it after 40. A good friend who's a tour manager came into it after 40. So it's okay for it to be a late in life career too. And I think a lot
100%.
of people don't think about that.
But
What's
if you
that?
could get into it sooner, I mean, okay, here in Crete, for one, really nobody's heard of the jobs, even that I do, that I've done before, from Formula One to this, really. And everyone's like, you've just gone and done what? Like,
Yeah.
they're just shocked.
Yeah.
At the moment, I've got a little, and he's very intelligent. He's not that you have to be intelligent. That's the wrong word. His confidence is amazing. That's the word. He's an 11-year-old boy. He's English. He's just spot on already. He's Greek. And he's like, how do I get into this? I said, what do you think you're interested in? He's like, well, I love, and he mentioned accounting side of things. I said, okay. He said, but anyway, I said, the array of jobs that you can do is unbelievable. You want to be a chef, study hard now, work with, he owns a taverna, learn everything from your dad, learn everything from your mum who's doing the front of
Right.
house kind of stuff. You've got a basis for that. You want to do lighting, there's a stadium here. When you're older, go to the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
If I'd been told that you could go push boxes in a stadium or the theatre nearby me
Right.
when I
Right.
was growing up outside of London, never knew that this job existed.
Yeah.
Never
Neither did
knew. I
I.
just went to the school fair.
Yeah.
Maybe England's different, but the school fair that told you that you're either going to be a doctor, a nurse, some kind of
Lawyer.
lawyer. You've got. I never went to college because I knew I wasn't in, I didn't have that brain capacity to be these people. And I was like, why am I going to spend all this money? Like, that was my theory then. My only thing I wanted to do was travel the world. And I can say now I have traveled, not all of it, but I'm very happy with where I am at the age of 45, sat in my desk in Crete. I'm very happy. But I wish I'd have had more guidance. And I still believe now there's not the guidance in the UK, in places to really, I don't know. And that's where I'd love to.
think it's I think we're getting there in some ways. I think a lot of people are pouring back into it.
Hmm.
Um, Rock Lidditz is doing a fantastic job. They've
Hmm.
started a
Yes,
college there. They are really just lifting up that next generation of kids and teaching and training them. Every year at the conference, there's interns there that are learning. Live
that's
Nation
brilliant.
has a similar program where they're teaching kids in the industry. So I think it's there. I think it's like you said, it's there. It's not there
Yeah.
to get that word out more, um, and really encourage more people to share the information. And
Or maybe
yeah.
people just don't want it to be there because otherwise the other jobs, they won't get filled either. So
Well, I mean, it will all work out the way it's supposed to work out. But
yeah, no, for sure.
yeah, it's
So for
not,
you now,
it is unique. It's not as glamorous as everybody seems to think it is. And I think
it's certainly
that's
not glamorous. It's hard
no.
work. It's long hours. You
Yeah.
have to be strong. Um, but you either love it or you hate it. And that's been my thing. And I've never been, let's say, I'm not going to say the word, well, I am going to say it now, normal, but conventional, the typical type of person. I never have been that person. So this life on the road has always suited me. Other people, it's just not going to
Yeah.
suit, you know,
And it's not a
and that's fine.
conventional, yeah, it is not conventional, but it's also not very conducive to being a parent.
Yep.
And so
Yeah.
there's that part, right? So, so for people who want to have families, then, maybe they go on the road for a season and then they come off, but it is really hard to be away from kids and your significant other for long periods of time.
Really don't know how some families do it. I mean, I actually know a young family right now. They're both chefs. They met as chefs, and I think it must have been about 6 years ago they had their first child. They decided to live in the UK and start a stable, normal job in restaurants. They hated it. They couldn't do
Yeah.
it. So now one of them goes away on tour. It could be for however long. When they have the days off, they fly the kids out to see the dad or the mum who's out on
Uh-huh.
tour.
Hmm.
There's always one parent with them, the mum or the dad. And then the mum or the dad will go off on tour. Of course, money's so much better. So then they'll come back and they'll spend, I mean, they went for 2 months in Thailand with the children. Amazing.
Amazing.
They found the way to make it work. Yeah, so it's everyone will find their own way to make it work, because they will. Yeah, because they will do. So what's next? Let's. I think we've gone through. I was just saying to you. Normally we talk for about an hour. It's been like an hour and a half now. I'm so sorry.
I know, we're
But
like
I've
best
loved
friends.
it.
I think we need to hang out next. I've never been to Greece, but I'm coming now. I'm going to come.
If you
Um,
come, really, my door's open.
I love it.
But what's next for you? Like,
Yeah,
for
so a
high.
couple things.
Yeah,
We
please.
were talking about this and it's interesting. So I do spend time at conferences. I speak at several conferences. I am doing um NOLA Music Con. I'll be speaking there in October. At South by Southwest, I am on the list as a panel picker. Have this, you choose the panel sessions. And so if you are so inclined, go to the South by Southwest site and vote for our panel. And it is called Beyond the Grind, and it's about careers in the industry, how to develop work-life balance, what touring careers are out there that are non-touring that support the live music industry. So I think it's a great topic. It just falls right into what we were just talking about. And
Everything.
hopefully,
Yeah.
yeah, if not at South by Southwest, I'm sure it's going to be on a panel somewhere at some point. What else
You'll
is,
have to drop me the link for that. So if you can send me the link, and then I'll add
yeah,
it to the post at the end of it as well.
perfect. Awesome.
Yeah.
I will do. Let's see what else is next. Echo Live, just continuing to work with Echo. Very excited. We have our fall workshop coming up in November. That is free to anyone who wants to attend. And the sessions are all really just based on the whole person. So it could be anything from talking about a career, talking about your next level career, talking about getting on the road, off the road, housing, health insurance, could be just about anything. We're really just hitting every breadth of the topics that affect people in tour. Let's see what else. Follow me on social media. I hate saying that so much, but my PR agency reminds me all the time. I'm on Instagram, Sharon High Road, and on LinkedIn. Yeah,
I love it. No, that's exactly what we want. And that's also, I'll put all the tags for people to follow you as well. So
awesome.
I'll just make sure that we've got all of that. And yeah, that's brilliant. But thank you so much for coming and talking to me. It's been a real pleasure.
So much fun.
And
I feel like we could keep
uh,
going. I might need another cup of coffee, but we could keep
seriously,
going.
we do. I just looked at the time and I was like, oh, I normally about, 50 minutes to an hour. It would be like an hour and 40 minutes and I still could carry
Gosh.
on.
I know, me too. Me too. Yeah, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. I feel like I have a new friend.
Thank you. Okay, all the best. And yeah, thank you for coming to Leading Ladies.
La 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 ladies, the ladies. La, la, la. Now here's the Leading Ladies by Geezers of Gear. On tour, maybe she got some stories to share. Now here's the Leading Ladies by the Geezers of Gear. Rock star ladies with some stories to share, because la 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 ladies, the ladies, la la ha ha. here's the leading ladies by geezers of gear. Rockstar ladies with some stories to share.